This episode of the Orange is Orange and Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, is presented by Press Play Podcast. We have so many awesome things going on right now. We just launched a brand new podcast called Up Next that talks about all your favorite streaming content, television, movies, whatever's going on. They're going to be talking about it. They just released their first episode last week. They talked about Dead Poet Society and One Night in Miami. They talked about what's hot, what's not, and what you should be watching. Make sure to check that out. Up Next with hosts Kristen Avalace and Christina Walter. You're going to love it. It's hilarious. They're so great. The conversation makes you want to watch those movies or those shows again if you've already watched them. Check it out. Up Next. And it's going to be good stuff. We also announced a brand new podcast on our network. Ray Guy and Rhoda is back. They've been off the air for years, but we decided to bring them back because they're just too good and too legendary to not have a show. R&R is going to be back. We're launching this show. If this is Tuesday, you're listening to this, we're launching this on Wednesday and Thursday. So make sure to check it out. R&R coming at you, talking about all things sports in Cleveland and the national level. I know they have a lot to say, and they want you to be a part of that. So make sure to go to any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, whatever, and type in Ray Guy and Rhoda and download and subscribe to their podcast. Coming at you here in just a few short days. We're also very excited to launch another brand new podcast, The Dennis Maniloff Show. You guys will get a sneak peek and kind of get to listen about what we're doing. That is going to be launching next week, and we're just so thrilled to keep Dennis on our team with us. And he's going to be talking about sports as well, but also kind of dive into other trending national topics, and maybe it gets into politics, maybe it gets into culture, maybe it gets into economics or business, whatever really D-Man wants to talk about. This is D-Man Unleashed, and we're really excited and honored to have him with us. And I'm just, oh my goodness, to think about the lineup that we're able to offer here at Press Play Podcast. We have Ray Guy and Rhoda. We have D-Man. We have Sam Amico and Cavs on the Break, which it's just we're back in a nice groove, coming at you every week with shows. Cavs are always in the news, it seems like. And with this Orange is Oranger, we have our Swinging the Tribe podcast, and Mike and Brent are just killing it with their tribe content. Make sure, if you want to know up to date on all spring training or whatever Brent talks about, make sure to just type in a Swing in a Tribe, and they really do have, I think, the best Cleveland Indians content on Apple or Spotify in the podcast universe. Check that out. Swing in a Tribe, ton of great stuff going on. We have another 3 podcasts we're launching over the next month, and I just can't wait for you to hear. I can't announce them yet. I'm really bad at surprises. I'm going to do my best, but we can announce Up Next, R&R, and the Dennis Maniloff Show. It's going to be great. In this episode, Jeremy and I interview Benjamin Allbright. We recap the free agency, talk about what's going on around the NFL, who moved the needle the most, and then we just do a sneak peek of the draft. We're going to spend all of April doing a deep dive in the draft, and we can't wait to have you guys with us. Hope you guys have an awesome Easter weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Enjoy the show. Jim Donovan, take us away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs!
Snap back, ball down,
Kick block! They blocked the kick!
This is the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, as always, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, end of March, spring is here. That means the draft is right around the corner. What's up, buddy?
We were talking about before the show, Chase. Isn't it incredible how little we know about the draft this year? In years past, we know every player, everybody that could be going to the Browns. And now that the Browns are 26 in the draft, it's kind of cool. We'll take a look at it. It's a nice different pace. That's what I have to say.
And it fits with just how it's a different season all around, different team.
Yep.
It is a new Browns team, and this is just part of that I feel like, Jeremy, moving forward, this is going to kind of be the norm for as long as we have this core and this front office. I think this is going to be maybe kind of where we're at, barring any injury during the season. But hey, today it seems that most of the free agency moves have kind of simmered down, and we are turning our attention to the draft. There's a lot of league moves already, and to help us break down all things free agency and give us a sneak peek into the draft, he's the host and reporter and analyst of the Broncos flagship radio program in Denver, KOA News Radio 850 AM and 94.1. He's been on the show. It's been a couple years. Benjamin Allbright, welcome back to the show, man.
It's good to be back, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. I think, Benjamin, it was like way back in, was it 2017? Like, you were one of our first guests on the show. It's been a minute, man. How have you been?
I'm doing all right. I don't remember exactly when it was. It has been a while. If I was the inaugural guest, is there a plaque for that? Is there
I would say he was actually the first 12 to 13 guests. We've had everybody you can think of since then, but it was right before the combine a few years ago. I remember that, just before the combine.
Right. That's right. I remember.
Cool. So, Benjamin, before we touch on free agency and the draft, I would just love just to spend a few moments. Hue Jackson seems to be this ex-girlfriend that never goes away, that keeps texting us, that's always popping up, and no one really asks him to. And over the past couple of days, he got into a fight with one of the most beloved media members in all of Cleveland Browns media, Ken Carman. And I just wanted to ask Benjamin, do you believe anything Hue Jackson says? Can I ask you that? Is that a fair question?
In this particular instance, or just in general? Because both answers would be no. Somebody get that guy a case of water, because it seems like he's thirsty as hell for some attention. It's with Hue, it's always something, man, and he's always working some angle, and he's always got something going on in the background, and and all this kind of stuff. I can tell you from a couple of years ago that from people that were working with him there in the building that that situation was a disaster, and he just refuses to accept any responsibility for it whatsoever, despite a lot of it being stuff that was his own creation. I don't know. I haven't seen the specifics of the Ken Carman fight. I've been a little busy on this end, but I'll have to dig into that, because that interests me now. But as far as the rest of it goes, I would say that the best way to approach anything that particular coach or former coach says is to verify it with somebody else before you assume it's a fact.
So here's kind of for people who've been out in the woods, and maybe this will, Benjamin shed some light on what he has claimed. That he touched on the AJ McCarron botch trade, which was always a fun kind of revisit. He said that Sashi Brown did sign off on it, and that it was in between Sashi and the field office that it got stalled, which is interesting. He touched on the Cody Kessler draft pick, saying that he did not want to draft Cody Kessler. That's what happens when it's football versus analytics, and not really what he shared. That was football and analytics. And then he touched on that he was actually given an in-season extension that they wouldn't allow him to speak to. And it's just like, I think it does sound like he just refuses to take responsibility, and he sees the success the team has. And he knew that if he just had a little bit of coaching talent, that he might even still be. It just seems really, like you said, really, really thirsty, and not a good look for our guy, Hue Jackson.
Yeah. The one major component of that I can speak to is the Kessler thing. That did come from the analytics department, but he very much signed off on it. So the idea that he wasn't into Cody Kessler is just not true. It did come from an analytics driven standpoint, but he was very much into it.
Jeremy, how much unintentional comedy does Hue Jackson provide you throughout the course of the past 7 years of being a Browns fan?
Well, it's just like you said, it's interesting. I mean, he should just leave it alone and go. I don't know why he just randomly comes on the Twitter and start. He said that there would be a reckoning coming with Andrew Berry. Even he threw in there. It's just weird. Just let it go. You turn the page. It's on to the next thing. It's just, I don't want to beat on the guy. I mean, I don't have any ill will towards you. It's just we should all just move on and get to what's going on now.
Would love to have him on the show, man. That would just be who knows what he would say. I feel like he's already unleashed. But
I'm sure he's got a few more after reading what he put on Twitter. I'm sure he's got a few more things. So Ben, let's transition to what the Browns were able to do in free agency. Obviously, they were very active. They targeted some guys, and it looks like they went out and got the guys they wanted. Out of everyone they signed, Ben, who do you think will have the biggest impact immediately? I mean, there's the obvious ones, but and another guy maybe under the radar that you think will have a big impact for the Browns?
Well, to me, the biggest impact's at the safety position. That was an area of concern last year. Now, part of that, Ceballos not good, but he had part of that was also the fact that the linebacking core wasn't really doing its job, last year, and so that put him out of position as well. It's kind of a give and take kind of thing. But Johnson's a much better safety and a much better fit for what Joe Woods does on defense. Can kind of play that robber role, can get down to the box a little bit, can kick inside when they do like heavy nickel stuff. He's really got kind of the versatility there that they want, because they love to do that, that 3 safety rotation. That was what Joe and Vance did when they were here in Denver. And so they love to run those heavy nickel sub packages whenever they can. So for me personally, I thought that coming out the gate swinging on Johnson was big, especially because Detroit was interested. And Detroit, I think that morning even, Detroit had the biggest offer in front of him. And then Cleveland came back and said, okay, here we go. This is what we want. This is what we're willing to give you. And, he wanted to be there and sign that deal. So to me, I think that was the biggest move, whether or not people are saying that was the biggest move to me. I liked almost every move they made, and some that they still haven't made that they're trying to pursue. I've really been a big fan of what they've been doing. Yeah, I guess for me, Johnson would be the one that jumps out, though. Is there locally? Is there a different one, or is that?
No, yeah, definitely. That's the biggest. I'm thinking maybe under the radar. I think under the radar, maybe bringing back Rashard Higgins on a team friendly deal, because obviously in Cleveland, Rashard has that cult following, right? I mean, Hollywood Higgins in Cleveland is that guy that's never got to buy a drink. People love Hollywood Higgins, and the fact that the Browns were able to get him back, I think $2.35 million. Fully guaranteed. Hollywood said the other day he had more money. And yes, he doesn't put up the greatest numbers, but I think PFF says he only had 1 dropped catchable ball last year. He obviously has a comfort level with Baker. So I think if we're talking under the radar, I think Rashard Higgins is probably a big one, and under the radar re-signing.
Well, yeah, I think as a matter of fact, I was on with Zagura there locally. Talked about that the day before it happened, and I could tell you could thank Baker Mayfield for that. Higgins has a large cult following here, obviously, because he played Colorado State, but. I could tell you Baker Mayfield was really lobbying hard for that, and lobbying both sides, lobbying the front office and lobbying the player pretty hard for that. And, you guys can thank him a lot for getting Higgins back.
And I think more than just for the, hey, there's a team friendly deal, is it shows the rest of the league that people want to re-sign in Cleveland. I feel like we haven't had a ton of skill players re-signed, and you look at Higgins wanting to be here and JJ3 wanting to play in Cleveland. Benjamin, did you ever think you'd live in a world where Cleveland is like a destination for agent location?
I mean, I knew it'd happen eventually, man. I mean, you can't, you can only be that bad so long. And I say that,
right.
I say that from the baseball side of the house because I was a long-suffering Kansas City Royals fan. So, I can tell you that you can only be so bad for so long before you just, you might even luck into being good at that point. But no, I've liked what the Browns were doing for the last couple of years. I've been kind of a not so closeted Browns fan, but I've been kind of a Browns fan about it for the last couple of years and kind of kept my eye on it from afar. And and then when you guys got Baker, I was all in. So and then Stefanski. Running wide zone, running a system that works for Baker. Yeah, I just, I think that it is interesting to note that you got a guy who's willing to turn down more money to stay in Cleveland. That would have been 5 years ago unthought of. Cleveland was the place that, guys who had basically run out their careers went to go to cash in one last time, or things like that. And so that's now Cleveland is no longer the place. Is no longer the Jaguars of the North or whatever. They're a respectable franchise that people understand is competitive, can compete, and they want to go there to play, not to go cash a paycheck.
I think Higgins is a great signing for all those reasons, but I think ones that'll be a little more under the radar than that with a bigger impact than Higgins is Anthony Walker and Malik Jackson. Because I think here's what those signings do. They provide Anthony Walker, I think, is going to start. Honestly, I think he's no doubt to be a stud, and I think he's going to compete JJ3 for one of the biggest impact signings. But I think getting the linebacker, getting Malik Jackson and Takk McKinley, that frees us up to not really draft a position of need. We really truly can kind of see how the draft goes, maybe move up, maybe move back, and really kind of acquire some more assets and realize, hey, at some point we're going to have to pay Baker, Chubb, as Denzel. I don't think Ward's been re-signed yet, right, Jeremy?
No, Denzel not either. Nope. They picked up the option on Denzel and Baker, but they haven't.
And so what they've done with these other signings is given them flexibility with incredible talent that and Benjamin, this is something that I've mentioned when we had Zagura on, I think a couple weeks ago, that this front office is creating what I'm calling the Cleveland way. We hear about the Patriot way, but they're young guys who are on a second contract, but it's a very they're very smart players. They're players that either called plays in college or in the NFL, or they were leaders on the defense. And I think JJ3 resembles that. Rodney Harrison Sr. That they got from the Jacksonville is that way. Anthony Walker's that way. You have these players that all of a sudden aren't just like they're really, really talented, but they also have this kind of like football IQ and acumen, and they're young, and it gives the Browns a lot of flexibility come draft time.
Well, yeah, and not just that. I think they've steered away from the over-the-hill veteran signings because they don't want that culture pervading the locker room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the over-the-hill guy who's just cashing in. Like they don't want that culture here anymore. And so that's, to me, that's the biggest pivot. Even Malik Jackson, a guy who's been around for a while. I think he's a great fit. Obviously, he knows the scheme. So he's, I think he's a great fit for what they do and has the right attitude, coming into it. I think that's a large part of it because as you draft new guys and as you bring these young guys in, the last thing you want to do is have that former attitude that, I'm just here to cash out one more time attitude pervading the locker room, pervading those young guys, poisoning them like a cancer in the locker room early. Now you've got an attitude of, hey, we're out here to win. These young guys, all they know is a competitive Cleveland Browns franchise because that's all they've been in. So, I think that kind of stuff, it's overlooked, but it's important.
Benjamin, what's the latest on I can't pronounce his first name. Clowney. Thank you. Yes. He came in for a visit and left, and it's kind of like we've been flirting with him for a long time. What's the stance? Where's he at?
There's mutual interest there. Jadeveon, I don't think is going to sign until he's fully healthy. I was surprised that they met because, a couple of weeks ago, he had kind of leaked out that he was basically not going to do anything until he was 100% and going to be working out and all that kind of stuff and going from there. So I was a little bit surprised that, that he took that meeting that quickly. But, hey, I guess if you're really interested, you do stuff like that. I don't think that one's going to get resolved as soon as probably fans want. I think that's going to stretch on a little bit longer, but you're 100% in the running. So
I think he did the same thing last year, right? He was a late signee. He kind of waited for his best option. And I think that's a lot of Browns fans, they're actually split on that. But you have to look at it as it's a low risk, high reward type signing. Look, you get him in, he plays opposite Miles. You get some games out of it, you get what mileage you have left. He's still an athletic guy. He's still only 28 years old. I don't really see the downside. They're not going to give him a ton of money. They'll give him a little bit of money. So I just fail to see the downside. I think it's the exact kind of thing these guys have shown. Maybe a reclamation project of a high pick that they can take a shot on that's not over the hill yet. So I think it's a win-win if the Browns are able to land him.
Yeah, I think the upside there, everybody knows. The downside, you got to, Jadeveon's going to try to maximize his dollar. That's what he does. And then how much are you going to actually get out of him? How much effort, and then how many games are you actually going to get out of him? So those are the things you have to kind of factor into all that when you're setting the expectation there. And like I said, I don't think that's a situation that gets resolved anytime soon. He's one of those guys that waits around forever, as you pointed out. But I do know the Browns are very much in the running.
All right, before we head to a break, Benjamin, we have to ask this question because it's a podcast and free agency is pretty much done. Who moved the needle the most, do you think, just across the NFL with what they did in free agency?
Well, the most talked about team was New England, but that was kind of weird to me. It's funny to me, all the think pieces of Bill Belichick's doing something he's never done before. Are you bleeping kidding me? That's what he's always done. He's always gone out there and gotten a bunch of free agency. Their whole methodology has been replenishing through free agency. Just the difference is the cost that they paid. They used to have Tom Brady, so they got everybody on the cheap because everybody thought they were coming in to get a ring. Now he's got to pay fair market value for these guys, and that's why the number is so high. So to me, I guess that moved the needle in terms of the conversation. I don't necessarily think the Patriots got that much better. I love the fact that they went and got those two tight ends, Henry and Smith. Those guys are good players, but they ran 26 total snaps out of 12 personnel last year. What that seems like a little bit of a waste unless you're redoing your whole offense. So, I guess that's the one that moved the needle in terms of conversation. In terms of players, it's this free agent period to me wasn't that I didn't find it very exciting. You just kind of looked and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's going there. We already knew that, that kind of stuff. So to me, this was a year, I think partially due to the COVID cap crunch and everything else, that just didn't feel as exciting maybe as previous years.
Hey, Benjamin, you can say the Browns. It's okay. This is a safe place.
Well, in that case,
as far as improving, they're probably up. I'd say the Browns are probably top five as far.
They improved. No. I just said they improved. I mean, anybody saying the Browns didn't improve, I think I'd have to laugh at them. But, I just did. As far as like moving the needle overall, I mean, no, you don't want to win free agency anyway. That's the other side of this. It's like because you're paying A+ money for B+ talent. So
right. Well, that's why we worded it the needle question. I think Arizona probably moved the needle in the right direction. They got AJ Green to kind of try to figure that out. Like JJ.
Well, we'll see. They moved the needle in the maybe in as far as hype. I don't know how much better they got.
But isn't that free agency though? Isn't that like you want to?
I mean, that's what Ben said. You're paying A+ price for B+ talent. That's why the John Johnson signing was so big. If you heard Andrew Berry, he said this kind of player doesn't generally get to free agency, and then to sign with us for less money. I think that's why that's probably a top 3 move in all free agency, because we got a guy entering his prime who's a leader, who's still 26 years old, right? So just my take.
The Arizona thing, that weirds me out too. I mean, what are they trying to win a Super Bowl in 2016 or?
Yeah, they got the 2017 All-World team.
Right.
Yeah, I've loved what the Dolphins have been cooking for the last couple of years. Benjamin, you feel like they improved themselves this offseason, like the direction they're going?
Yeah, and I do like the direction they're going quite a bit. That's a good football team. They're very well coached. I got a chance to kind of see them up close and personal last year when they came out here to Denver. It's going to be interesting to see about the quarterback position there this year. Looks like they're either all in on Tua or they're hiding it well, one of the two. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I love Brian Flores as a coach, though. I'm going to tell you, he's a real deal. He is absolutely the real deal. He was one of the guys that interviewed here in Denver for the job when Fangio got it. And, there's some people that may be slightly regretting that now.
Yep. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back. Benjamin will talk about the Cleveland Browns fandom, touch on the draft, and that'll be it. So stick around. We'll be right back. Want to take a few moments to talk about our sponsor, Manscaped? This tournament season, take care of your hair and holes with the best tools for the job. We're talking about our sponsors, Manscaped, the global leaders in male grooming from head to toe. When the clock winds down in March Madness, be clutch and avoid the upset with the Manscaped Performance Package to keep all your hair and holes tamed. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Personal male grooming is no longer taboo to talk about. Join the Manscaped movement and start taking care of your basketballs today with 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com and using promo code ORANGER for our exclusive offer. That's right, 20% off and free shipping by using our promo code ORANGER at manscaped.com. Looking your best below the waist. Boost your self-confidence. Male grooming is no longer a shameful discussion. It's something you don't need to be embarrassed about. More men do it than you know, and this is how they do it with Manscaped, the best and premier products in male grooming. Your purchase goes towards a great cause because they've partnered with the GOAT. That's right, the GOAT, Alex Caruso, and the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men ages 15 to 35 and giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of the We Save Balls initiative. So not only does your purchase go towards boosting your self-confidence and image, but to Testicular Cancer Society as well. It's a win. It's a win-win. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ORANGER at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code ORANGER. When things get hairy, make sure to call on Manscaped in clutch time.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
You've been pining, you've been waiting for Rega and Rhoda to get back together. We gotcha. Press Play Podcast. We're ready to go. We're going to have our podcast with everything that you want. Browns, Cavaliers, Indians, Ohio State, the national scene. Kenny Rhoda, Michael Regai back together again. Make sure you keep your ears open. It's happening right here on Press Play Podcast. See you then.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
And me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomwell CBD Store and PhenomwellCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, PhenomwellCBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
All right, we're back with Benjamin Allbright to help us recap the free agency and give us a sneak peek into the draft. Before we do, Benjamin, you are a noted Denver Broncos fan. You work for the flagship radio station in Denver, covering the Broncos, and the Browns have experienced finally a renaissance in their team. Benjamin, how do the fans need to adjust their fandom? Because we actually have a good team right now. I don't know if the Broncos, you've kind of seen all different seasons for the Broncos. How do we as fans need to adjust, and what can we expect? Like, I feel like that has to change a little bit.
Well, let me impart some advice. Enjoy success. First of all, enjoy success. Don't sit there and nitpick and criticize and be critical of success. Enjoy it because it's so fleeting. And then second of all, don't set the bar unreasonably high. You know, I know people in football want to. You know, the Browns are not going to win 4 straight Super Bowls, guys. Like, it's just not going to happen. So don't set the bar so unreasonably high that you're upset that they don't meet those expectations. Continue to be like, okay, if we make the playoffs, then we've got a chance to. That's a whole new season. We got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Then once we get to the Super Bowl, we got a chance to win the Super. You know, and so set those bars there. Like, we're going to go out and make the playoffs, and then from there anything can happen, and you'll enjoy your fandom a lot more. Because I've looked at this fan base, and I actually grew up a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So for me, this is interesting from the outside looking in at Denver, who was so successful for so long, and over the last 5 years, just how miserable they have been, out here in Denver. And I can tell you, enjoy success. It is fleeting.
You know, Benjamin, I said this was a safe place, but it's not that safe of a place. You don't think we're giving it 4 straight Super Bowls? What are you thinking, man?
Come on, man. Fan equals fanatic, baby.
All we do is set the bar unreasonably high.
That's right. Yeah, right. I guess I got to go on every podcast. All 32 teams are all winning the next 4 Super Bowls. It's a 32-way tie. They're carving the Lombardi up. That's why Tom Brady was tossing it around. You know, he wanted everybody to get a piece.
Yes.
But let's move along now to this upcoming draft. We know you're sort of a quarterback guru. There's a very interesting draft for quarterbacks. Where do you think this quarterback derby ends up shaking out? Where do you think some of these guys, I know it's still early, but where do you think some of these guys end up falling?
Well, I think that Lawrence and Wilson 1 and 2 is set in stone. I don't think that's changing. In fact, I know for a fact that San Francisco really wanted Zach Wilson as well. That was the number 1 on theirs. But, ultimately, I think that their former staff that's there in New York is going to wind up with him. The number 3 pick is where it starts to get interesting. because you've got this current media push about Mac Jones. But people I had talked to prior said they were really smitten with Trey Lance. And then, on top of that, you've got a situation where, Kyle has known Justin Fields previously from his work with the QB Collective. So, I don't think everybody has a pulse on exactly what's going to go on there. I don't know. For me, trading up that high for Mac Jones just seems bizarre. But, the 49ers haven't exactly drafted well so far, so we'll see. Atlanta was super smitten with Trey Lance, so I don't see him slipping beyond 4 if the Niners pass. And then, that really just leaves Fields after that, who Carolina likes. So, and that depends on if Denver likes him or not. Maybe they have to trade up to 5, and you could see quarterbacks going 1 through 5, believe it or not.
Wow.
I would believe it. Benjamin, what do you see the Browns doing? The Browns have the 26th pick, which is a lot of fun to say. What do you think the Browns do at 26?
Well, I think you see them rejoicing that they're not picking in the top 5. No, I think you're in the unique position of understanding what it's like to be wondering what's going to fall your way in the draft, and you can kind of have targets and you kind of have your eye on things and all that kind of stuff. But, it's a lot easier to draft well when you're always picking top 5 because you're going to have great talent there. So now you actually have to lean on your scouting staff. You actually have to lean on these guys and say, okay, most of these guys, we've already had 25 picks go. Who's still available? Let's take a look at this. There's still going to be plenty of good talent there, but you guys, you're not in the quarterback market. You're not, necessarily just trying to take the best talent available right there. I mean, you want to get the best talent available, but you're not taking like a blue chip player right there that's a top 5, top 7 guy. So for me, I think you just wait and see what falls in your lap. I think you're versatile, flexible, and you kind of look at it like, hey, with all these quarterbacks going early, that means good players at other positions are going to get pushed down to us, and we're a team that needs players at other positions. So I wouldn't rule out a trade up, but I think the objective would be to be patient, see what falls in your lap, and go from there. I wouldn't be surprised to see if it was along the offensive line.
Ooh, I would like that. I like that. I wouldn't mind seeing them going linebacker as well. Benjamin, you said it. You think it'd be easy to pick in the top 5 because of the talent? Well, the Browns would like to beg to differ. I think we have a Wikipedia page that would kind of show you that a little more challenging for us, at least. Jeremy, what do you think the Browns are going to do at 26?
I think they really have put themselves in the position of best player available. And like Ben said, if one of those top 4 or 5 receivers slide because of all this quarterback movement, that's a distinct possibility. I think, we still need a young pass rusher, but I don't think they'll reach for one. I don't think if the guy they want is there, maybe Zaven Collins, we talked about a little bit, but I don't think if the guy they want, I think they really have done such a good job of putting themselves in a position to truly take the best talent available at that position. So that's what I expect that to be it. I think you'll start hearing some names coming up here, but I think it's going to be whatever's best. Now, if they wanted to move up, could they? Yeah, I think they have 2 3s and 2 4s. So they do have some ammo to move up a couple spots if there's someone they're targeting. But I truly believe they are just going to sit and wait and take the best player available at that position.
Yeah, I don't think we should be surprised if in 3 and 4 we take a quarterback and kind of all of a sudden, hey, that's what New England did, and hey, it's the Cleveland way. Hey, Jeremy, we're going to be talking about the draft all month of April leading up to the draft, so don't worry, we're going to spend a lot more time talking about the draft over the next couple weeks. Benjamin Allbright, I have one more question, and you have to answer honestly. Okay, here it is. This is the last one. Do you miss Jeremy and Akron on Twitter? You got to tell us the truth, man.
We used to have some fun back in the day, man.
We did, man. We had better beef than Wendy's does, but no, I think I do. And here's the thing, man. The trolls, like the modern troll thing that goes on. God, it's so gross and disgusting. Yeah. It's not the same as it was. Like at least back then, it was like cheeky and fun.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's got too serious, man.
Yeah, it has. It's serious and personal. It's bitter and it's mean, and I'm not a fan of that stuff, man. I enjoy the light jabs and the sparring and stuff. I don't enjoy this modern wave of crap that they're doing. So Jeremy's an OG from way back, and
he is, man. He is.
I miss going head to head a little bit.
There was one time that I remember, this was so funny. If you remember, I was driving the Josh Allen train. Okay.
Yes.
I was all in a Josh Allen. And you said something about only his agent or something, and I quote tweeted with like, I'm out here working, and you like legit spit take you just put back because I was legitimately Josh Allen's agent for like 3 months on Twitter. It was and it started out I was just sick of everybody bashing him, so I just took up for him. And then that transferred into me loving him, and it made for hours and hours and hours of just intense, funny banter on Twitter. But now you can't even do that anymore because everyone just gets too serious. Back then it was fun to argue about, Saquon Barkley and Josh Allen. And now it's just everybody just takes it to another level. It's just not as fun. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. I just turned 40.
No.
Just turned 40.
That's
maybe
fair.
it's that. But
Benjamin, we're not
both hitting our
fans.
midlife troll crisis. That's
that's it.
Benjamin, we're not fans of the kind of Twitter bullying either, but we are a fan of you. Thank you so much for coming on the Orange is Oranger to talk free agency and draft. And that wraps it up for this episode of the Orange is Oranger. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Visit pressplaypodcast.com for sponsorship info and to see how you could host a show on our network. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Orange is Oranger. We're still trying to reach 5,000 so we can follow everyone that follows us. Help us out. Would you give us a shout out? And shouts to a very special guest, Benjamin Allbright. Follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. Benjamin, what do you got coming down the pike, man? What do you got in store for those on Twitter?
Well, I think I'm going to be headed up to Cleveland for the draft. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe I'll do some videos and stuff live from Cleveland. My first trip to Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, actually. So that'd be a lot of fun for me. And otherwise, you guys can just unfollow me at Allbright NFL. It's a dumpster fire, and I wouldn't follow me anyway.
Well, hey, if we make it up, we'll be sure to connect and maybe share a drink. Jeremy, any final thoughts?
No, man, thanks again. As always, Benjamin, great insight, great kind of national look at it, what's going on in the NFL. Thank you, and thank all of you for listening. Let's go Browns.
Yep. Hey, we'll catch you guys next month, a couple weeks, going all in on the draft. So we'll see you then.